So yesterday we had learned about regression analysis and how regression analysis can be used for predictive modeling. So how the equation is arrived at and what is the significance of the different parameters.
Are my slides visible? Can you guys see my slides?
No, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
No, madam.
Everybody
Yes,
can
ma'am.
see the slides?
Yes, ma'am. Visible.
Hello?
Visible.
Yeah, now it is visible, madam.
Is it visible?
Yeah, madam. It is visible, madam.
Perfect.
Monica,
So
madam. Good
yesterday I
morning. It
believe
is
you
visible.
must have read or you must have learned something about regression. So what actually is regression? I'm going to restart from giving a brief introduction about regression again, and then we can go about talking about some other methods of linear regression, wherein there are more than one parameters or the predictors which are supposed to be seen to. Somebody is saying something? No? Okay. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction again about regression, and then we'll go for the multiple regression, wherein there are more than one predictors or more than one independent parameters which are impacting the dependent parameter y. So yesterday you must have learned about the equation for linear regression as y equal to a plus b x or beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 and so on. So this is the equation for multiple regression and this is the equation for a single regression, wherein there is only one independent parameter and there is one dependent parameter which is getting impacted through the change or the variation in the independent parameter. Similarly, the same independent parameter might be having impact related to more than one independent parameter, and then that is the reason it is known as multiple regression. So let's restart the discussion, wherein how do you define regression? Regression is a technique for determining the statistical relationship between two or more variables where a change in the dependent variable associated with and depends on a change in one or more independent variables. I'll give you a very brief or a very small example. We normally go for doing some kind of forecasting, wherein we try to find the demand for certain products. Let's say I want to know the demand for tables and I do different forecasting techniques looking at the previous data. I try to find what's going to be the demand for tables in 2022. So what to know that? So I check out the data, let's say from 2011 to 2020. I check out the data and try to find the forecast for that. Now, as you know, the demand for tables is impacting the demand for the table legs. It is impacting the demand for table top. It is impacting the demand for the paint that is being used for painting the tables. So I can say the Y which can be any one of these, is dependent on some kind of a constant, which can be a, beta, 0, and with some variant, that is b into x, which is the number of tables. Another example can be, let's say, in marketing management, we try to use different kinds of promotional tools, and that impacts the sales. So sales can be the dependent parameter upon the independent parameter of the promotional budget or the kind of promotional techniques that you are using. So then how do you relate this basic relationship with the regression analysis? The regression analysis, as you read yesterday, is a technique of studying the dependence on one variable, that is a dependent variable, on one or more variables, which are known as the explanatory variables or independent variables, with a view to estimate or predict the average value of the dependent variable in terms of the known or fixed value of the independent variables. So, as you can see, when you go for the demand forecasting, and this is your y and this is your x, when you go for the demand forecasting, the actual demand points, let's say from 2011 to 2020, might fall at different places, and then you try to fit a straight line which is known as the line of best fit. Now what is the line of best fit? What it is, it tries to minimizes the error. So this is the error, and I can even extrapolate it to know the demand for 2022 using this particular line. So simplest is the linear regression, where you are fitting the data with a best hyperplane which goes through the different points, and for each point the difference between the predicted point and the actual observation is the residue. So this is this particular line, the straight line is the predicted point, and these points are the actual demand zones. This is the forecast and this is the actual demand zone. So your job, so this particular line tries to reduce the or minimize this error component, eta 1 to eta n. So each point, the difference between the predicted point and the actual observation is the residue. So regression analysis is the most often applied technique for statistical analysis and modeling. And wheresoever, as again I say, there are more than one variable involved, on the basis of elimination, we conventionally call the independent variable, and the variable whose value is to be estimated is called the dependent variable. There can be more than one driver variables or more than one independent variables, and the functional point, normally we give the equation as this, and this is the residual or the error component. Dependent variable, you'll in different books and different articles, you will find it as explained variable, predicting variable, response variable, endogenous variable, and the independent variable might be known as an explanatory variable, regressor, or the exogenous variable. So again, I'll not, you can say, give much more time to simple linear regression, which I believe you guys must have read yesterday. In this, what we are doing, we are assuming one input variable and one output variable or the dependent variable, and multiple linear regression, assume an input vector x and try to find the objective function and try to fit the line of best fit through the different demand points, which minimizes, again I will minimize the residue error or the residue which is predicted by the summation of the forecast minus the actual demand, and to keep it. So how do we learn the different parameters? For the second 2D problem line, there are coefficient for the bias and the independent variable y-intercept and the slope. And this is the way, these are the equations how to find beta 1 and the beta 0. Let's initiate the discussion for today. Multiple regression, which is commonly known as social and behavioral data analysis. In multiple regression context, what we do, researchers are very often interested in determining the best predictor for the analysis. And as I said, it has got multiple predictive variables or multiple independent variables. And this focus may stem from a need to identify, first of all, identify the predictors which are supportive to the theory. When you develop a theory, you want to know, let's say you want to know how the IQ of a child is determined. It can be determined on the basis of the genes of the parents. It can be determined on the basis of the education. It can be determined on the basis of the, you can say, reading done by the student. So in this manner, you normally identify the different parameters which support the theory which you want to test or which you have hypothesized. Alternatively, the researcher may simply be interested in explaining what is the most variability in the dependent variable, and you try to reduce the predictors as minimum as possible or with the fewest possible predictors, and main reason might be cost. Because more the number of predictors, more information you will have to gather, more data you will have to purchase. So it can be cost analysis. And today we are going to read about two approaches to determine the quality of these predictors. First is going to be the step-by-step or stepwise regression, and second is going to be the hierarchical regression. So again, taking it further, we have identified the difference between simple regression, and we have identified the difference between the simple regression and the multiple regression. We defined beta, which represents the unit change in y per unit change in x, and it does not take into account any other variable besides single independent variable. As I had shown you, beta 0 is the intercept and this is the slope. Beta 1 is the slope of the line. Now, beta I represent the unit change in y per unit change in xi in multiple regression. It takes into account the effect of other bi's and it tries to identify the, you can say, a complete or you can't say in multiple regression that what's going to be the impact of each variable. You simply try to find the net regression coefficient. You simply try to find the net impact of different parameters, the different variables that you have identified. And then you try to identify that what is going to be the, you can say, change in each, you can say what's going to be the change in y or the dependent variable with addition or deletion of each dependent variable. We take into account some assumptions for regression. First is known as linearity. The y variable is linearly related to the value of the x variable. Independence of error. The error is independent of each value of x. So this is the second assumption that we have taken. And the last one is homoscedasticity. The variation around the line regression can be constant for all values of x. That is how each demand point is distributed around the line of best fit or the line of regression. So in this case, what is the goal for regression? To develop a statistical model that can predict the values of a dependent response variable based upon the values of the independent or explanatory variable. So again, multiple regression, it's a statistical model that utilizes two or more qualitative or quantitative explanatory variables x1 to xn or xp, predict a quantitative dependent variable. So in multiple regression, you don't get a line, you normally get a plane. It get a plane wherein again you try to minimize the error. As you can see, these are the error points. This is the error, this is the actual demand point, and this is the forecast. So try to minimize the error. And as you can see, this plane is cannot be predicted that the singular impact of x or singular impact of y cannot be determined on this plane. What you do, this is a combined impact of x1 and x2 on the variation of y. So in this case, we identify first the null hypothesis is equal to 0 and the alternate hypothesis at least one regression coefficient is not equal to 0. We initiate the discussion with this particular hypothesis. So different types of models which we will be studying: positive linear relation, negative linear relationship. I can define it in this manner. This is positive linear relationship. This is negative linear relationship or opposite relationship. This is no relationship, either it can be this straight or this can be this way. Positive curvilinear relationship. U-shaped curvilinear. It can be positive or it can be negative. Negative curvilinear relationship. So these are different models, but we are going to restrict our discussions for multiple regression only on the linear scale. We will not go into the non-linear regression models. So different measures of variation, as you studied yesterday. One is the explained variation, and another is the unexplained variation, and then you try to find a total sum of squares due to regression and total sum of squares of error. This is the multiple regression equation wherein beta 0 is the y-intercept, a constant value, and beta 1 to beta p are the different slopes or different values of the coefficients of the different independent variables. So stepwise regression, we are going to discuss about, yesterday you must have discussed about the forward regression and the backward regression. We are going to again make use of the forward regression and the backward regression for the stepwise regression method, wherein both selection and elimination of variable is considered. When you talk about selection of variable, we call it is as a forward regression, and when you talk about the elimination of the variable, we call it as the backward regression. So in stepwise regression, we make use of both the forward regression technique as well as the backward regression technique. We will also going to discuss about the hierarchical regression, wherein you are grouping the variables and identifying its collective effect. And we are also going to identify the major difference between the stepwise regression and hierarchical regression and the limitations or the shortcomings of each method. So forward selection, this procedure is similar to stepwise regression, but it does not permit a variable to be deleted. So you go on adding. Whereas stepwise regression, you can also delete a particular variable. The forward selection procedure starts with no independent variable, that is y equal to b0. It adds variables one at a time as long as significant reduction is the error sum of squares, or you try to find the value of r square or adjusted r square, whichever gives you the best value. In backward elimination, what you do, you pick up all the values in the equation and you go on reducing each variable at a time, whichever the researcher wants to be considered, and we try to determine whether the least significant variable which is in the model can be removed, and it's on the basis of the p-value, wherein we try to keep the value of p as low as possible to reject the null hypothesis. And once the variable has been removed, it cannot re-enter at a subsequent step. That is for backward elimination. But in stepwise, we try to have that consideration. Normally, for stepwise regression, we leave the modeling, we leave the elimination and the addition on the computer. The software runs the program for you. But in hierarchical regression, the major difference in hierarchical regression, you are trying to find the important variables, the variables which are actually bringing in a change, and you try to eliminate the variables which looks as if, looking at the r square value, that they are bringing in a change, but when you look at the adjusted r square value, you might find that these are not actually bringing a change in the y, but it's totally a error component. So let me take a small case. We need to predict the consumption of home heating oil during January for homes located around some particular site. Two explanatory variables are selected: the daily atmospheric temperature and the amount of attic insulation in some units. So we need to develop a model for estimated heating oil used for a single family home in the month of January based on average temperature and amount of insulation in inches. So you have two independent variables, the temperature and the insulation, which impacts the usage of oil. So when we prepare the solution, what primary conclusions can be drawn by the homeowner from the data that has been collected? The data that has been collected, as you can see, when the temperature is high, the consumption is low, so that has got a negative relationship. When the insulation is thicker, again the consumption of oil is lesser, so again this has a negative relation, as you can see from the different values. So what could a homeowner expect heating oil consumption to be if the outside temperature is 15 degrees Fahrenheit when the attic insulation is 10 inches thick? So we will be developing an equation for the regression analysis for trying to identify the amount of consumption of heating oil. So here you have done the multiple regression analysis on any software. You can use Minitab, you can use Excel, you can use SPSS, and you estimate. So as per this, the equation for this shall be, the consumption Y shall be 562.151 minus 5.3, or I can put it as 5.44 x1, which is the temperature, minus x2, which is your insulation. So this equation you have found, as we identified from the data that the oil consumption has got a negative relationship between the temperature and the insulation, the thickness. I'll revert back to the r square and the adjusted r square values. What do they determine? And as you can see, the p values are quite less and the t statistics is high. We try to keep it as high as possible and p value as low as possible. So this is the equation, as I said, that we have got. So using this, you can easily determine the temperature for the usage for the month of January, looking at the temperature in January and the thickness of insulation in the house. And this is the chart that you have drawn using your actual data, and this is your prediction. This is the prediction. So I can extrapolate it. I want to know, let's say this is still the 2000 December. Now this is for January, this is for Feb. So I can easily identify the usage for the oil consumption on the basis of, this is for 2001 January, this is, let's say, 2002 January, 2001 Feb. So through this you can easily identify, but herein, because this is a single regression analysis, you have taken only one parameter, and as we saw, when you are considering two parameters, it becomes a plane. It's not a single line. So it's a linear regression, but it's a plane. So as you must have understood yesterday, the value of R square, it says that 0.9656 value says that 96.56% of the variation in heating oil can be explained by the variation in temperature and insulation. So these are certain values which we shall be using again. Sum of square total, that is the sum of squared regression SSR, and the sum of squared errors, that is SSE, which are identified using the equations which are given on the screen. So sum of square total will be sum of, now these are, yi is the individual value here, and this is the predicted value, this is the average value, this y is the average value, this is the predicted, the forecasted value, and this is the average of all the values. This is the predicted value minus the observed value, which gives us the error component. Sum of squared error, and it can be positive or negative. That is the reason we square it. As you must have read yesterday, we tried to find the mean absolute deviation, mean squared error, and mean percentage deviation. So R square, this is the explained variation upon the total variation. This is the coefficient of multiple determination. It never decreases when new x variable is added to a model. If only value, it is determined by the sum of squared, the total variation, but it is disadvantageous when we are comparing different models. The proportion of y is explained by the set of independent variable, as we found the value of 96.96 variation in the usage of the oil can be attributed to the insulation thickness and the temperature outside. Now there are two values that we saw in this, R square and adjusted R square. R square and adjusted R square, and we try to find what is and adjusted R square. R square or explains the degree to which your input variable explains. So we got the value of 96.96. So It means that 96.96 or this much percentage of the output is attributed by the different input variables that you have identified. So higher the value of R square, more variation is explained and rest can be left for the error component. But there is some problem in R square value that it will either stay the same or it increases with addition of more variables even if they do not have any relationship with the output variable. And that is the reason as we go on adding the different variables, there is a possibility that R square will either remain the same or it might start increasing or reducing, although there is no variation in the output variable. So that is the reason we take into account the adjusted R square, which reduces or penalizes you for adding variables which are not improving your existing model. So we normally see the variation of the adjusted R square when you are adding a variable to the equation in the step-by-step regression. So if you build a linear regression model or with multiple variables, it's always suggested that you make use of adjusted R square to judge the goodness of fit or the goodness of the model. And as you go on adding more non-significant variable, you will find that the difference between R square and adjusted R square goes on increasing. So that also shows whether the variable that you have added has got any significance, actual significance to the variation of Y with respect to the different independent variables. Now let's take up a small quiz. If you want to evaluate the success of the model in terms of the percentage of variability in the response explained by the explanatory variable, you will be using R square or adjusted R square. We shall be using R square. But on the other hand, if you want to compare two competing models and you need to decide whether a certain explanatory variables or independent variable should be included or not, we make use of the adjusted R square because it increases or stays the same with additional explanatory variable even if they are worthless vis-a-vis adjusted R square. It shall go down if the variable that you have added is redundant or useless. So we have again identified the importance of R square and adjusted R square, where to use which one. Then we also identified how the multiple regression equation is built. Now once you have built it, we want to know which independent variable is bringing in how much change in the dependent variable. So we make use of the stepwise regression model or we make use of the hierarchical regression model, where in stepwise regression we go for both selection and elimination of variable, that is forward as well as the backward regression. And stepwise regression are sometimes used for educational and psychological research, and it is used to evaluate the order of importance of variables and to select useful subsets of variables. Now this particular method, this particular model, this particular technique, stepwise regression, involves developing a sequence of linear models that can be viewed as a variation of the forward selection method, since predicted variables are entered one at a time. But the major difference between stepwise regression and forward regression is that at each step of the stepwise regression analysis, we also go for identifying removal of each entered predictor. If it is removed, what's going to be the value of R square or adjusted R square? And if it is entered, what's going to be the value of adjusted R square or R square? And that is the reason we go for subsequent addition and deletion of the variables in subsequent steps. So till we reach a value where they no longer contribute, or they no longer contribute at all, or they no longer contribute appreciably, or as a unique predictive power is not identified for that particular variable. And then the total combination of newly entered predictors, which gives you the highest R square value, it is considered. So if you want to know the difference between the hierarchical regression and the stepwise regression, the hierarchical regression is allowing you to decide which term to enter at what stage based on your decision on substantial knowledge and statistical expertise. So essentially, when we go for research, we go for theory building. The literature reviews theory building. So hierarchical regression takes into account the theory which has been developed by the researcher, or the review that the literature review that day, or the understanding, the domain knowledge of the researcher is also considered when you're going for hierarchical regression. But in stepwise regression, you're letting the computer decide which term to enter at what stage, and it's the basis of decision on some criteria. It is increasing R square or adjusted R square. So hierarchical regression is a way to explain or to show that the variables that you believe shall actually making a difference in the dependent variable, and when you are accounting for all the variables. So this particular method, hierarchical regression, is a model of comparison rather than a statistical method. Vis-a-vis, when we talk about stepwise regression is a method of fitting the regression model in which the choice of predictive variable is carried out by automatic procedure by the computer. You make use of softwares like SPSS or Minitab. And each step, the variable is considered for addition or deletion from the set of explanatory variable. And to address the issues more directly, the motivation behind stepwise regression is that you have a lot of potential predictors, but not enough data to estimate their coefficient in a meaningful way. This is the major trouble with stepwise regression. So again, how you go for addition or deletion, which has either the highest p-value or the lowest p-value, you pick up that particular constant, the variable, and you try. So as I said, it is made up of forward as well as backward regression both. And as it is used in educational and psychological research to evaluate the order of importance of variables to reduce the impact on each other, that is minimizing the error. Some statistical criteria is used. It's a step-by-step iterative construction of a regression model that involves the selection of many variables to be used in the final model. And each step, the variable is considered for addition or subtraction from the set of explanatory variables, and it is done using some pre-specified criteria. So that particular criterion can be a form of a sequence of F-test or T-test, but other techniques are possible, such as adjusted R square is also possible. So let's take up a problem on how the computer software goes for identifying the relevant variables. So the different steps of stepwise regression taken up by the software. First, the software program fits all possible one variable models of the form this one, where xi is the ith independent variable. I is, I'm sorry, I forgot, this should be, and we try to test the null hypothesis where beta 1 is equal to 0 against the alternative hypothesis that beta 1 is not equal to 0. That is, there is some relationship between the independent variable x and dependent variable y. And the independent variable that produces the largest t-value is declared the best funny variable predictor. So now the stepwise program starts searching through the remaining k-1 independent variables for the best two variable model. Again, the variable having the lowest t-value is retained x2 and further. So this method is repeated with all the variables from x1 to xp or xn till you identify the best possible model, and we try to seek which is the whether the previous variable was contributing something or the other or not in the association, or is there any relationship, or the combination of the newly entered variable and the existing variable is bringing the value of r square little higher or value of t higher. There is some problems associated with stepwise regression. So in this, what you are doing, you are containing only the terms with t values that are significant at a specified alpha level, the confidence level. That's a most practical situation. What's happening? You are having the different kinds of errors wherein you might be choosing some important independent variables in the model, that is type 1 error, or you are eliminating some important variables, that is type 2 error, which is, you can say, a bigger problem, because if you're not able to identify the variables or the exact reasons why there is a variation in the dependent variable, then the whole process of regression becomes redundant. So that is the reason you can have type 1 error where you are keeping some unimportant variables in the model or in the equation, and you are eliminating some important variables from the equation. And since it's done by the software within using some logic of maximization of the t value, maximization of the f value, or maximization of the adjusted r square value, it is not taking into account the qualitative aspect or the researcher aspect or the theoretical aspects or the domain knowledge to identify how much important it is. So that is the reason we might not have arrived at a good model. So when we choose the variables to be included in the stepwise regression, we may often admit higher order items, that is, either we want to keep the variables as manageable, or at the beginning itself we must have omitted some important terms from the model. So it is just a screening process. So if we identify stepwise regression is just a screening procedure, and we have to go for the hierarchical regression to bring in the qualitative aspects or the theoretical inputs or the domain knowledge of the researcher into the perspective. Now let's say predictive variables are selected on the basis of t value. Now there are three variables, x1, x2, x3, and on the basis of the value of t, you select x1, x2, and some interactions, and to get the equation. So if I draw the flowchart of the stepwise regression, it comes something like that. First, you regress y on each xi. Any xi where the incoming variable, has the higher value than the outgoing variable. Then if it's not there, then you stop it. If it is there, you add xi with a minimum p value to the model. Now again you further go for regressing the model with xi not in the model and those in the model. So again you will get some value of t, some value of p, and some value of adjusted r square. Now any other p value for xi which is not in the model is lesser than the model p values which are already there in the equation. If there are no more values which are lesser, then what you go, you stop. If they are there, again you bring that equation, bring that variable in the equation, and again try to regress this. So this goes on till you achieve a model wherein no possible deletion is, or no possible entry of a variable is allowed or not permissible. Let's say we want to check the effect of mother's education level, father's education level, parents' income and faculty interaction on years of graduation. How many years does it take for a student to graduate? So on this data, on the basis of this data, or years of graduation, or it can also be the credits earned by the graduate or the credit earned by a student. So on the basis of this data available, we can determine the correlation amongst all the variables, and on the basis of the correlation, the variables included and excluded will be determined, and we make use of SPSS. But there is a basic limitation. Now let's say there is a team of 24 players. So what's going to happen? Why is the team wherein there are some qualities of each player? There is a quality of each player. Now you want to know, form a team of 5 members so that the basketball team can be made. So if we make use of the stepwise regression method, we will select the best player among the population and the second best player, then third best player, and we follow this process to select the 5 players and formulate a team. But in this case, what you are doing? You are not considering the interrelationship between the players. There might be a second best player and a sixth best player, but the interrelationship between these two is so good. The way these two guys interact on the court, it is so good that they should be kept in the team, but it is not necessary all 5 players selected to be the best together because of their interaction, which is not considered. To overcome this problem, we need hierarchical regression to get the best fit of all the best variables. So this is computer generated. Highest predictor or the best predictors are selected, but no interrelationship is selected. So that is the basic. Now let's say, now this is the one model that has been developed. So if you go through this particular values of Pi or the values of T, value of T can be positive or negative. So negative value doesn't mean the value of T is less. So you look for the lowest T value and try to remove that from the equation, wherein the adjusted R square, as you can see, is this. So you see that the minimum value of this is the adjusted R square value. The highest P value is this one, 8th grade maths, and you try to remove it, or this is giving you the lowest T value. This is going to be giving you the lowest T value. So you try to remove it from the equation. So let's see what impact it brings in the equation. So here you can see when you remove this, the impact is your adjusted R square value has increased. Let's take it further. The next lowest value of T is identified as the household income. So try to remove that from the equation and analyze the impact. The computer again removes it and gives you the other variables by removing these two. So again, the value has increased. The relationships have increased. The P values have become higher. Now again, the next higher value is identified, being obese. removing this. The next is population, the highest p-value. So this way you go on till you get the model which gives you the highest adjusted R square value, or the model which doesn't bring in major change in the values of t, or you get a high t values, or you get low p values. If you go further, you can see the adjusted R square value has reduced. So this is your model. You can see your, again it has reduced. So this becomes your final model wherein these parameters are impacting the independent variable. So this way you go for identifying the variables which impact. Another example can be how the stepwise regression procedure works by considering a cement data set of a cement plant wherein the 4 independent variables are percentage of tricalcium aluminate, percentage of tricalcium silicate, percentage of tetracalcium aluminiferrite, and the X4 shall be percentage of dicalcium silicate. So here you see how this runs, how the computer programs runs in SPSS. First it is bringing in X1, X4, then X1. So in this manner, as you can see, this particular variable is dropped. Software runs the program, and looking at this, you see it has dropped the X3 variables, which means that the percentage of tetracalcium aluminiferrite is not impacting the hardening of cement on a per gram basis. Now let's have a discussion about hierarchical regression. We have been talking about hierarchical regression throughout. Just a second. So far we studied about hierarchical regression. Hierarchical regression, it is another alternative of stepwise regression, and it can be useful for evaluating the contribution of predictors or predictions above and beyond the previously entered predictors. In this, what we are doing, we are making use of statistical techniques, we are making use of statistics, and we are also examining the incremental validity of each parameter. Again, what we do, based on some theory or past research, first we group the variables into different blocks. And like stepwise regression, hierarchical regression again is a sequential process which involves the entry of predicted variables into the analysis, and again it is, as I said, it is a stepwise process. The order of variable entry into the analysis are based on some theory, some domain knowledge of the expert. So instead of letting a computer algorithm or computer software choose the order in which the variables are entered in the equation, These orders are determined by the researcher based on some theory, some past research. And as I said, it's going to be a better tool or an appropriate tool, rather the better word is an appropriate tool for analysis when variance of a criterion variable is being explained by a predictor variable which are correlated with each other. Now, since correlated variables are commonly seen in social sciences, research and especially prevalent in educational institutes or in educational research, we make use of the hierarchical regression, that what's going to be the impact, what's going to be the, let's say you want to know the reason for increase in credit of a student. So we identify different parameters. It can be the educational, it can be the tuition the student is taking, it can be the father's education, mother's education, it can be availability of more reading material, it can be, you can say there is a change in the faculty way of conducting the, so all these things are first researched by the modeler, and then they go for making use of the hierarchical regression process. It's a very popular method and it is used to analyze the effect of predictor variables, and where we are controlling the method of entry of the predictor variables into the equation, and this control is achieved by calculating the change in the adjusted R square. As I said, one variable enters what's going to be the change in the predicted R square or adjusted R square at each step. So what you are doing when you are one variable is there, the another variable enters. So what you are doing, you are keeping an account of the incremental change or incremental in variance when each variable is entered into the regression model. So this is the way, on the basis of the change in the R square value or in terms of the contribution R square value to dependent variable controlling other independent variables, leading to a determination of contribution of each block. So this way the block is built. So whichever block gives you the best possible solution or the best possible combination of the elements is taken up. Hierarchical regression is also a sequential process which involves the entry of predictive variables into the analysis and steps, but the order of each entry is based on some theory and the researcher is choosing the entry. So by calculating the change in the adjusted R square for each step, and this is the way how we go about it. Again, it's a statistical method for exploring the relationships and testing the hypothesis about a dependent variable and several independent variables. Let's take up an example. A country's female literacy Y is associated with smaller rate of annual population increase, a greater gross domestic product and a high per capita income. So what we do, we classify X1 into block 1, X2 and X3 as block 2 because X1, the annual population increase is a separate thing and a greater GDP and increase of high per capita income can be clubbed together. Yes, and this information will only come through the past research, it will come through the domain knowledge of the researcher. So after these models or these blocks are made and the data is processed, so the impact of, you can say the impact of block 1 is seen through the respected R square values and their contribution and variance of a dependent variable is determined. If both are contributing significantly, both are included into the model. Now, on the basis of the standardized coefficient of the beta values, the sequence of independent variables are decided, which decreases the beta values. Now somebody wants to know what's going to be the impact of the number of pets on the happiness index, which I think it's a very relevant research today, specifically in the time of pandemic. So we'd like to investigate if the number of pets could be an important predictor of happiness. So in hierarchical regression, we try to determine whether newly added variables show a significant improvement in R square. The proportion of explained variance is R square in the dependent variable. So happiness, the intercept plus age and gender. So as we know, when we do the research about happiness, happiness is age related. When somebody is, you can say, a very small toddler, a kid can be happy for without any reason. They don't need a particular reason to be happy. So age can be an important parameter. Gender. Boys and girls have different reasons and they have different, you can say, happiness values. Then if you add one more parameter into it, that is number of friends. So more the number, because if you have read about the Maslow's need hierarchy, beyond the physiological parameters of shelter, this food, water, then the next comes the social circle or the social beings, because human beings are social beings. So that is the reason they need people around, or they need people with whom you can feel affinity with. So that is the reason more the number of friends that you have, the value of R square is increasing from 0.029 to 0.131. Now again, me as a researcher would like to know, what do you mean by the number of friends? Is it the number of friends on Facebook? Is the number of, you can say, likes that you have on Twitter, on your Twitter handle, or your what is that, Instagram? Or you're talking about the actual number of friends. So that can also be analyzed in this particular problem. So, but our, you can say, point of discussion was if the number of pets can be an important predictor for happiness. So you add on the number of pets, collect the data and try to do the analysis, and you identify that the value of R square has increased from 0.131 to 0.197, which says that the third model is explaining the dependent variable better than model 2. And the difference of the R square value between, or the explained variance between model 2 and model 3 is statistically significant. But this increased R square value is statistically significant, so we can very well say that the number of pets explained is additional 6% of variance in happiness, and it is statistically significant. So if you conduct the hierarchical regression on SPSS, so this is some kind of a result that you will be identifying or you will be seeing. As you can see, these are 3 models. This is one model, job attitude and personal learning. So first model shall be this one. Then you add the second model, the relationship variables. So these are the demographic variables which are most important. So you first conduct the, or you regress the values on the data collected for the first group or the first model. Then you want to know, is there any variation with bringing in relationship duration, hours per month with mentor and types of mentor. So you add these two models are brought together to know if there is any variation, and you see that there is some change in the R square value. Then you bring in the third model of mentoring functions, vocational support, psychosocial support, and role modeling. Again, to know if there is any variation. So now, as you see in the first model, you are going for role ambiguity, job satisfaction, and intention to leave, which defines the parameters for job attitude and learning. Then the second model, we are trying to bring in relational job and skill development, role ambiguity and job satisfaction, and intention to leave. So, as you see, you have developed some models and then you are testing it. And if you see here, it is bringing in a significant change in the R square, or the variance is there. So that shows that the impact of new variables are higher. So I'll just take a 2 minutes break here. Any questions, anybody?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello,
Good
just
morning. Ma'am, I'm audible?
yes, you are audible.
Ma'am, thank you so much. It's a wonderful session. Ma'am, my question is that how to understand the statistical significance. We have observed in statistical significance in hierarchical regression. So, is it measured only in terms of percentage, or it depends on other factors also?
See, when you are bringing a variable into the equation or into the analysis, it's going to bring in some impact. For example, let's say you take a glass of plain milk, okay? You add some sugar to it, you mix it. So there is some change, overall change in the total scenario of the concept that is milk. So each variable, I'm giving, you might be thinking that I'm giving a very stupid example, but now you add something more, let's say Bournvita or coffee to the milk. So each variable is, or each parameter is bringing some variation in the complete scenario. Let's say, I gave you an example of the CGPA of a student. So when you talk about the CGPA of a student, you normally, the most important parameter is the hours of study the student is putting in. Okay. That is an important parameter. You start with that. Then you add the mentor, the faculty who is taking up that particular course. Then the reading material which the student is referring to. Then you might be saying the environment which is in which the student is studying, the IQ level of the student. So in this manner, you go on adding the parameter, and with each addition, you try to identify the value of R square, which is the easiest one. And that is showing the degree of variance, whether that particular factor is bringing some change in the dependent variable or not. So that is predicted using the R square value or the adjusted R square value.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
I'll just take a 2 minutes break.
Your phone has no data connection, so I can't help
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're
Yes,
audible.
I believe in during pandemic, there is one thing which we have learned a lot. This term, am I audible, has become so important because majorly we are communicating for our online classes. We are communicating for the meetings through online sessions, Google Meet, Zoom calls, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, and so many platforms are there. And the first thing that we say, am I audible? Hopefully, it doesn't continue for long. We should be able to communicate offline because that this gives you a better essence. So the next topic for discussion today is data analytics. Uh, Data analytics, as the term say that you have some data. Yesterday you must have learned about the different kinds of data. You have the data, but let's say you have raw data. So first thing that you have to do, you have to put the data in some recognizable format, wherein you can see whether the data is bringing in a increasing trend, a reducing trend, some variation is being brought about in the data. Is it showing some kind of seasonality? Is it showing some kind of trend? Is it showing some kind of negative trend or a positive trend or a negative variation? So that is a part of analytics. So what is the reason why you need to read about analytics? It not only gives you the health of the data, health of the organization using the data, it also tells you how the variation is being brought about, how the changes are happening globally, and how you can utilize those variations, those changes for your benefit. And that is the reason I was reading an article and it said that 65% of the companies believe that they need to improve their analytical capabilities. So that is the essence of data analytics in today's scenario, or business analytics in today's scenario. But out of these, only 50% believe that they are spending enough on analytics. I'm reading it from the article, and only 30% of the companies are developing new strategies to address changing customer requirements. But the top performer companies are investing in change and technology, and they are doing it at twice the rate of their peers. So we used to say that if you want to be a market leader, you have to first make your supply chain, make your organization supply chain the best. The competition was between the different supply chains. Then the concept of analytics came into being, and today we say that whichever organization has the best supply chain analytics shall be the winner. So if you try to identify the difference between the market leaders, that is the top 30%, and the followers, the bottom 70%, I'll again read it. 95.4% of the outbound order delivered to customer completed and on time. This is I'm talking about the market leaders. 94.6% of orders received from suppliers completed and on time. 0.5% decrease in total landed per unit cost in the past year. So within 1 year, only 0.5% decrease was there, and which is a substantial value, the total landed price, and 7.5 decrease in the frequency of out of stock inventory in the past year. So this is for the matured industries, which is for the market leaders. And if we talk about vis-a-vis the followers, from 95%, 0.4% of outbound orders, the followers are having only 86.4% of outbound orders delivered to customers and completed and delivered on time. So that is the reason we say to be a market leader in terms of business analytics or data analytics, the usage, we say that you need to be more capable, you need to be more advanced, you need to be more automated, and you need to be more analytically evolved. You need to be more organizationally intelligent, making use of analytic tools, business analytics tools, and you need to move aggressively towards the usage of analytics in your day-to-day functional areas of the organizations. So let's take this further. What is data analytics? Data analytics is a process of inspecting, cleansing, transforming and modeling the data with the goal of discovering useful information, suggesting conclusions and supporting decision making. So that is the definition given by Wikipedia. Now, data analytics in terms of an organization leverage the data in a particular functional process or in applications to enable the context specific insight which is actionable. When you have the data, when you're analyzing the data, you're trying to interpret the data, you're trying to become more, you can say, informative. It surely is going to bring in a better response from the organization. And what you're doing, you're trying to extract more information from the existing data. You're trying to support the advanced decision making using that particular data. So first thing that has to be done, as I showed that some raw data is there. So you have to go for first data visualization, wherein what you do, you try to prepare the data in form of, you can say, some visual index. For example, let's say there is some data, just a second. हाँ जी आलोक जी.
हाँ मैम पीपीटी चेंज नहीं हो रही है.
हाँ जी.
पीपीटी में आप जो बोल रहे हो ना वो चेंज नहीं हो रही है. तो इंडिकेट करेंगे पीपीटी.
अच्छा मैं दोबारा देखती हूँ जी.
हेलो. हाँ मैम अब सही है. हाँ अब ठीक है. अभी है सर. Now it is working मैम. मैम ऑडियो नहीं आ रहा. ऑडियो नहीं आ रहा है.
अब आ रहा है.
अब आ रहा है मैम. अब आ रहा है.
Perfect.
ओके थैंक यू मैम.
Yeah. So the first thing that has to be done is you need to first prepare the data for, you can say, for the manager. So let's say you have a data about, let's say, 4 categories. And you have, for each category, you have the 12 months data. For let's say 4 years. So the total data set that you will be having into 4 into 4. So that's a huge data set that you have. So what we can do, if you present the data in form of some graphs, if you present the data in form of some pie charts, it will be easy for the person to see the data and make effective decisions. So often data visualization, single page, real-time user interface and graphical presentation of the data. If it is done, it becomes easy for somebody to interpret the information and take effective decisions. So analytics in the simplest term is the discovery and communication of a meaningful pattern in the data, and it is very much relevant in areas where lots of data is available and which requires extensive computation. So we need to apply statistical inference, interpretation, computer programming, analysis tools, operations research, and different modeling techniques. To quantify the data and evaluate its performance. So, first of all, we need to identify what happened, that is descriptive analytics. Then why did it happen? Diagnostic analytics. And what's going to happen, that is prediction. And how it can be stopped or how we can make it happen, it is prescriptive analytics. So we will be reading about each types of data analytics capabilities. So this gives you the hindsight or the information. This one is giving you the hindsight or the information of what has actually happened. Sometimes what you know, in certain articles these two will be combined under the same heading of descriptive statistics or descriptive analytics. In predictive analytics, what you are doing, you are bringing in some logical predictions from this particular data that has occurred to bring in a meaningful insight. So that is what will happen. So as we know, when you have the demand data or the forecast data, using this, you are able to predict the data for the next planning horizon. So and if this is less or more, what you do, how you can bring in some change to, or you can plan something, you can give some prescriptions, some solutions to bring in a betterment of in the next planning horizon. So this is what's going to happen and how you can bring in a better change. So this can be the insight and this can be foresight, wherein you are planning for the future. So looking at the past data, you bring in some insight into the present, and using this insight, bring in some logical solutions or some plans. You foresight for a better future. So this in overall is the data analytics, and it is defined on two terms of the value and the difficulty. So we'll come back to this again, and again this has been given by Gartner. So analytics, again I say, it's not simple number crunching. It includes ability to present the information, and the decision maker needs graphs, dashboards, scorecards and other data visualization tools to communicate any insight gained from the data. And we make use of data analytics in various areas like operations, supply chain, finance, marketing, human resource and different business areas to describe, predict and improve the performance. So as we saw in the graph, we make use of descriptive, predictive and diagnostic prescriptive models to gain knowledge from data, while at the same time it uses this insight to recommend action or to guide the business decision making. So analytics requires extensive computations and applies algorithms, softwares. We have different data analytics software. For example, in Solver, I make use of Solver, an Excel tool to do the data analytics for in supply chain. Like in transportation, I make use of Solver. Some people are using other tools like Amos, or some people use R programming, Python for So let's discuss about each category. Descriptive analytics, it describes past data and answers questions to what has happened, uncover the hidden pattern, where it has happened and why it has happened. It involves data summarization, data visualization, and query-based analysis for actionable insights. It deals with preparing reports and business dashboards for effective decision making. This is more about the past data. How you are going to present that data, how you are going to make it in a form where you can form a pattern in the data. For example, you can have, this is the line of best fit, but you can have some cyclic variation in the forecast. You can have some seasonality associated with the forecast. So this complete pattern will be visible when you are putting the data in some manageable format. So that is uncover the hidden pattern, where it has happened, why it has happened. It involves data summarization, data visualization, and query-based analysis. And it also gives you real-time insight about locations like transportation, manufacturing, amount of goods in terms of barcodes, scheduling, inventory management, real-time updation of inventory. So this is about descriptive analytics. Then diagnostic analytics. In this, what you are doing, why this has happened. So analytics performed on the internal data to understand the why behind what happened is referred as diagnostic analytics. And this kind of analytics is used by businesses to get an in-depth insight into a given problem provided. So essentially, diagnostic analytics is helping you to identify the anomalies, the changes, the outliers which impact the causal relationships in the data. Now you can have two kinds of relationships of the data. One can be attributed and one can be random. So diagnostic analytics helps you whether that variation or that anomaly is random or it is attributed or due to some cause. So there's an example like e-commerce giants like Amazon can drill the sales and gross profit down to various product categories like a particular product to find out why they missed on their overall profit margin. So when you are getting the complete sales data, so how to break down the data on the basis of the different product families, broken down into product families, then breaking it down into different products within the product families. Then we go for diagnostic to know why the sales have reduced or why you are not able to manage some profits on that particular analytics or on that particular product. And it has a very major application in healthcare because it tries to identify the influence of medication. Today, as you can see, during the COVID times, the impact diagnostic analytics is playing a very, very major role in vaccination and medication, because now we are having this impact that if we are mixing the different kinds of vaccines, what impact will it have on the, you can say, the curing of or prevention of corona. So specific patient segments, diagnostic prescribed medication. Then predictive analytics. Now this defines what will happen and what is going to happen. So it is the probability of occurrence of the future event. So predictive analytics in supply chain derives forecasting from past data and answers the questions of what will be happening in the future. Then comes the prescriptive analytics, which is trying to find the best possible or the optimal solutions for the future. And when we talk about prescriptive analytics, we make use of tools like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. And this brings in a new concept of data analytics, big data, which we will be, if the time permits, we will take it. And it suggests the actions to be benefit from predictions that show implications of each decision. And as I have taken the example of supply chain, so it derives decision recommendations based on descriptive and predictive analytics. And we also make use of mathematical optimization techniques. So how data analytics moves on competitive advantages? Now there were two things. First was visualization, reporting, and the dashboards. And the second part is advanced analytics, tactical and strategic decision making. So in visualization and reporting, we will be having what happened. So reports and dashboards are there. Then where and what happened. So you prepare a presentation which tells you where it happened, when it happened. Then doing some kind of using QC tools, the Viva analysis, the fishbone, the Ishikawa chart, to try to identify what are the causes. And depending on the kind of causes, you may do a FMEA analysis. Which cause brings in the major change? So there are different causes, let's say A, B, C. This cause, the occurrence might be only 10%, but the failure cause might be 80%. Here, the occurrence might be, let's say, 60% to 70%, but the failure cause, the problem cause might only be 10%. So you have to also do the analysis about that. So what to do? So this brings in the red flag. Like, for example, at the beginning of this kind of a failure or this kind of a problem, you put a flag. So no sooner it starts, right at the beginning, you generate some alerts that this problem might occur. Then we make use of some statistical techniques, some forecasting techniques, some predictive modeling, some optimization tools in advanced analytics and tactical and strategic making, some to know why it is happening, what if it continues, what to do, and using the optimization tools or optimization techniques, what shall be the best possible solution. So we essentially move in two steps. First is strategy formulation, process development, wherein you are, what you are doing, you are identifying the problem and the process gap, the problem, why it has happened, where we lag, and then you go for forming the planning decisions, which is requirement gathering and data needs and analysis. So what are the different roles of data analytics? First is gather the hidden insights. When you have the data, so how to bring out the relevant information from massive data? Today we are talking about big data, where the data is so huge that it can't be even put up in an Excel sheet, which has 10 lakh lines to around 90,000 lines in the columns, 10 lakh lines in the rows, and still that data is, we can say, cannot be accommodated. So that is the big data, huge data. We are something like you are trying to bring in like pearls from the sea and then analyzing it. First of all, you have to identify the relevant data, then analyze that data, generate reports. So reports are generated from the relevant data and are passed on to the respective teams and individuals to deal with further actions for a high rise in business. Then you perform the market analysis. So this can be performed to understand the strength and weakness of the competitors. Improving the business requirements, that is analysis of the data, which allows you to find the customer requirements, the experiences, gather the data about the customer, doing the behavioral analysis, doing, you can say, reading about their purchase patterns. So all this will help you in forming some solutions. So let's say you start from data, gather some insights, and finally you take some actions. So the first thing is information technology, that is data. There's a data layer where you are integrating the data, collecting the data. Then you are translating the data, that is information technology converted into knowledge. So translating the data through cleaning the data, processing the data, interpreting the data, and preparing the data for the usage. And this is done to do the visualization, analysis of the data to gain some insight, to draw some interpretation or some interpret the data, or so you draw some inference out of it, inference out of that data, which helps you in planning. So this can, again, this is all done using the data. So let's say there is a company which is still at the first stage, wherein they only have the past data. They only have the past data, or they only have the data about what has actually happened. So that is hindsight. Only information they have. Now they will have to make use of that information for why it happened and what happened. So if you are able to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, the reasons of failure as well as for success, then what you do, you develop some insight. What has to be done, what has not to be done, so that it helps you in predicting the future. If you do this, what's going to happen? If you don't do this, what's going to happen? So you predict, develop some insights from the data. And finally, once you have developed the insight, then you go for predicting. Or forecasting. Finally, it helps you give some solutions for the future or prescribe some method, plan something, how to make it happen. So that is foresight or optimization, and these are known as optimization tools. One can be like linear programming. Linear programming, what we do, there is an objective function. There's an objective function. Now, as we know, each work, everything has got some constraints associated with it. So you define the constraint. Define the constraints. So you try to find a solution which is best possible or optimal, looking at these constraints. And how you are identifying these constraints? Through data. How objective function is made? Through the insight, wherein again, as in regression, we identify the different regressors, different variables which impact the future occurrence. So you have gained insight, and then from that you by optimization, you are bringing in a better future. So moving from hindsight towards insight, using optimization to be the best or to be a leader. So I'll just take one example of the business analytics or data analytics tool, wherein I have used it for supply chain analytics. Supply chain analytics, it is focusing on the use of analytical techniques and information technology to make better decisions related to flow of material, money and information in the supply chain. Whereas if you define supply chain analytics, it is a set of analytical approaches to make the decisions that are better match supply with demand. Because in supply chain analytics or in supply chain, what we are doing, one end you have the demand and other end you have the supply. So you are always trying to match these. But as you know, the demand is continuous, whereas the supply is discrete. So matching a continuous curve with a discrete curve, it is best possible through analytics. Because let's say supply will always come in numbers, 10, 20, 10,000, 50,000, whereas your demand is continuous. It's a straight line, whereas your supply is, in January you will be receiving this much, in February you will be receiving this much, vis-a-vis your demand is per day. So that is a continuous curve. So matching a continuous curve with a discrete curve takes some, you can say, logic, and we make use of analytics so that it contributes directly to the bottom line. And how you are managing it, you are lowering the sourcing cost, the transportation cost, the storage cost, reducing the stockouts, and trying to increase the disposal cost or the salvage cost. So supply chain analytics has gained popularity since last 10 years post advent of big data, because it is utilized for quick decision making, need for better and faster decisions, and presenting the information in an understandable format. Easy for the manager to understand the data and take some logical decision. Today, in this age of sustainable manufacturing, in this age of reverse flow, in this age of green manufacturing, wherein you want to go for recycling, closed loop supply chain, the concept of data analytics has gained very much relevance in supply chain. So how are you managing? Go for need identification. So in this, what you do? Applying intelligent analytics to address the challenges of the complex supply chain environment. Whereas there is a lack of flexibility in manufacturing, distribution and logistics. If you talk about supply chain, let's say this is the manufacturer for which you are discussing about the operational aspects of this particular manufacturer. There's only one identity. Backward end, you have lots of suppliers. It can be tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier. On the forward end, you have the different customers, the distributors, the retailers, the end customers. So on this end, you have customers. The usage at this end is totally different. The usage at this end is totally different. So what you are doing, you are managing this complete chain. And today you are also talking about the reverse. Previously, it used to be only in one direction. Now you are also bringing that it has to come back. So that again has increased the complexity. So this is the importance of supply chain analytics to gain significant return on investment, ROI, better understanding of risk, increasing the accuracy, achieving the lean supply chain, preparing for the future. So these are the core components of supply chain. Here you can see data visualization or the descriptive statistics. Using some technology, platform, some tool. That tool can be Solver, that tool can be Python, that tool can be SPSS, it can be R. Some technology platform you can use, it can be machine learning, it can be artificial intelligence, anything. You do some analytics to gain insights into your supply chain. So these are the 3 stages of supply chain analytics: obtaining the data, defining the data for analysis, and analyzing data to discover insights into it so that you can prescribe some or give some solutions for the future problems, expected problems, predicted problems. I am giving some solutions to the predicted problems or enhancing the existing stage or the existing state. So supply chain management analytics works from purchase to pay kind of a scenario, as well as it is order to cost kind of a scenario. So order to cost kind of a scenario is the customer end, as I said, and this is for the supplier end. From both the ends, it is working. So these are the sources of data in the supply chain: RFID, GPS, camera footage, images, social postings, blogs, sensors, so on and so forth. So these are the benefits of the data analytics or supply chain analytics, financial analytics, HR analytics, market analytics, and so on and so forth. So we'll stop at this point. Any questions, anybody? Any questions, anybody?
जो इस संस्थान सेंटर फॉर ई गवर्नेंस में चलती है, जितनी भी एक्टिविटी चलती है,
Anybody?
सभी की जानकारी
एनी क्यूरीज हो तो आप पूछ सकते हैं.
Ma'am, this is Dipali again. Ma'am, I just wanted to understand that we are using data analysis for analyzing the data which is available to us. And basis on that, we can do various research projects.
Very
But
good.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, maybe my question sounds weird, but I want to understand that do we have approaches within data analysis for the research? Means, can we do some research on data analysis itself rather than taking any, case study like supply chain or any other else, irrespective of the case study? Is there any factors or anything there we can, do the research on data analytics?
Very good question, Dipali. You can very well do research in data analytics, because today in this age of big data, where you have immense data, it is like infinite data is available. So how to pick the data? Recently, one of my friends is working on in the area of data analytics. She is into machine learning. Now, for example, let's say you must be seeing the science fiction movies. Yes or no? आप novels भी पढ़ते होंगे?
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes.
है ना? आप movies भी देखते होंगे, science fiction movies हैं, Star Wars kinds, और आज की जो English movies होती हैं वो बहुत beyond, आगे का बहुत सोचती है कि like आपने हैरी पॉटर देखी है? हैरी पॉटर देखी है या आपने बुक पढ़ी है हैरी पॉटर की?
मैम बुक नहीं पढ़ी, बहुत पहले.
हैरी पॉटर में एक एपरेशन वाला कॉन्सेप्ट होता है कि मैं आज यहाँ हूँ और मैं कल को मैं वहां पे पहुंच जाऊं. या फिर एक कॉन्सेप्ट है कि मेरे पास बहुत सारा डेटा है, ओके, शॉप्स पे जैसे कितने लोग आ रहे हैं, कैसे आ रहे हैं, कौन से तरह के कपड़े पहन के आ रहे हैं, क्या खरीद रहे हैं, इतना सारा इमेंस डेटा है, ठीक है। अगर उस सारे डेटा को इफ आई एम पुटिंग इट इन अ मशीन, आई एम पुटिंग दैट डेटा इन अ मशीन, उसको मैंने कोई लॉजिकल मेथड दिया, टू थॉट प्रोसेस दी, जिसको हम आर्टिफिशियल थॉट प्रोसेस कहते हैं। तो कल क्या होगा, लेट्स से कस्टमर कम्स, लुकिंग एट द कस्टमर एंड द डेटा, उस कस्टमर को वो पुराने डेटा से कंपेयर करेगा, फिर आपको ये बता सकता है कि इस कस्टमर की क्या परचेज पैटर्न है। और एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल है, आप कहीं बाजार में कुछ खरीदने जाते हैं तो बहुत बार ये होता है कि जो आपका पूरा डेटा होता है वो शॉपकीपर वहां लिख लेता है, isn't it? या आप रेस्टोरेंट में जाते हैं, आप एक फ्रीक्वेंटली किसी रेस्टोरेंट में जाते हैं तो वहां पे उनको आपका चॉइसेस पता होती है कि आप क्या ऑर्डर करेंगे, वो भी डेटा एनालिटिक्स है, यस और नो, isn't it? वो भी डेटा एनालिटिक्स है। तो इस तरीके से आप कोर डेटा पे, टूल पे भी वर्क कर सकते हैं और आप उसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पे या फिर उसके मेथड कहाँ इम्प्लीमेंट हो रहा है उस पर भी उसको आप रिसर्च कर सकते हैं। तो आप टूल पे अगर रिसर्च करना चाहते हैं बहुत अच्छा, और आपके उसके एप्लीकेशंस में वर्क करना चाहते हैं जैसे सप्लाई चेन एनालिटिक्स है, फाइनेंशियल एनालिटिक्स है, मार्केट एनालिटिक्स है, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस है, तो आप उस पर भी काम कर सकते हैं। सो इन दिस मैनर इस वक्त दिस इज द बेस्ट टाइम टू यू कैन से वर्क इन डेटा एनालिटिक्स, कि हम बहुत ज्यादा इस पे वी आर रियली ग्रोइंग। आपका जो एक छोटा सा आज न्यूज़पेपर में एग्जाम्पल था कोविन का, तो मोदी जी इज प्लानिंग कि कोविन का जो टूल है दे ही इज प्लानिंग टू सेल इट अक्रॉस। उससे आप सोचिए 1.3 बिलियन लोगों का डेटा है आपके पास, 1.3 बिलियन लोगों का डेटा है, उनका एज, उनको किसको वैक्सीन लग गई है, कौन सी वैक्सीन लग गई है, उसका एज क्या है। एक आधार कार्ड से, एक डेटा से आपने कितनी सारी चीजें लिंक कर दी, उसका पासपोर्ट लिंक कर दिया, उसका पैन कार्ड लिंक कर दिया, उसका पर्सनल डेटा लिंक कर दिया, उसका वैक्सीनेशन स्टेटस लिंक कर दिया, उसमें आपने उसका पासपोर्ट को लिंक कर दिया, तो उसको आपको ये पता है कि वो कहाँ जा रहा है। जैसे यूएस में होता है, एक नंबर होता है, हर पर्सन का एक नंबर होता है, उस नंबर से आप उसकी पूरी जन्मपत्री निकाल सकते हैं कि उस बंदे का कितनी बार वो जेल गया है, कितनी बार वो गया है, कौन से रेस्टोरेंट में उसने विजिट किया। आपका क्रेडिट कार्ड है, आपका क्रेडिट कार्ड का जो आप जो स्पेंडिंग करते हैं वो भी एक डेटा है। आप अपने बच्चे को कहीं पढ़ने भेजते हैं किसी कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट में, तो वो भी आपका डेटा सेल कर देते हैं। तो आज तो पूरा होराइजन है डेटा का, बहुत अच्छा टाइम है आपका डेटा एनालिटिक्स में वर्क करने का। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Pleasure. So okay, I'll take your leave. It was a, you can say, nice session, and hopefully I was able to justify it, do some justification, and you might have gained some insight, some knowledge. Time was very limited, 2 hours में इतने बड़े-बड़े 2 topics लेना, but still I tried my level best. Thank you. Thanks a lot.